Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Gritty Hour. I'm back in my usual squat with the podcast room, I call it, and I'm here with a very special guest, Mr. Gary Hill, who is an author of very many books, and he's also a music critic as well. So, welcome to the Gritty Hour, Mr. Hill.
Thank you for having me. Hi,
Oh,
everybody.
it's an honor to have you on board. So, you've written a lot of books. They all seem to be of a certain genre. Why don't you explain to our listeners what you do?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about a certain genre. I mean, I do a lot of music-related books, and then I've got Tales of Wonder and Dread Publishing, which I do horror and also science fiction. But then I also do some just generally spooky stuff. Like I do a collection of books on local cemeteries here, which are mostly pictures. So kind of all over the place. Whatever interests me is sort of where I go with things. And I'm into music, spooky stuff, science fiction, and cemeteries. So there you go.
Very nice, and we're trying our best to have this air on Halloween, so it'll be appropriate. But while you describe some of your books, I'm just gonna, if it's all right with you, I'm just gonna show the people who happen to be watching us on YouTube a page, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You want me to go ahead and just talk about? I can talk about a few that just came out.
Well, I'd like to first discuss your books, if that's okay, and then maybe a little down the road we'll get into the music end.
No, I meant
But
some of the books.
yeah, that's what I'd like to discuss now. I have your book page of your site, which for anybody
Right,
listening is GaryHillAuthor.com. So you could
right.
check that out. That'll also be in the show notes for anybody listening or watching. Go ahead, Mr. Hill.
So on there you've got Strange Sound of Cthulhu, which was the very first book I did, which is about it's a nonfiction book about music that's inspired by the writings of the horror writer uh, H.P. Lovecraft, and
Uh,
that one came out in 2006, and it's actually probably my best received book to date. I and the Lovecraft scholar S.T. Joshi, who wrote the foreword to the book, also called it one of the most interesting books he's ever read. So
hmm,
I thought that was pretty cool.
nice.
And then you got Strange Realities, which is just a collection of short stories of mine. Poetry of the Air, which is all about interviews with musicians, and then some other collections of things. The other ones you're showing there.
Hmm. Can you explain a little bit about the Poetry of the Air book?
Okay, so when I started doing Music Street Journal, I
Hmm.
started thinking about that before I ever interviewed anyone. I started thinking about it would be really cool to interview musicians. And as a musician myself, don't really play anymore, but I played for many years. Um, I've always found that some of the most interesting conversations you can have with musicians are when you talk about what they're passionate about, which is music, and especially the music that they just like to listen to.
Hmm.
And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to interview some musicians who everybody's heard of, and some that maybe not everybody's heard of, and just sort of get into who they liked when they got started, who inspired them to get started doing music, and what's inspired them since then. And so I did. I got to interview several of the members of Yes,
Really?
several guys from the metal band Rage, Tommy James,
And the
Bunny Carlos.
Shondells, yeah, Tommy
Right?
James. Yeah, I used to love
Yeah.
him when I was a kid. Yeah.
So I got to interview all of them, and I'm actually working on an expanded and revised edition just to get some more interviews in
Hmm.
for the 10th anniversary, which will be in 2026.
Interesting. Um, Tommy James of Tommy James and the Shondells, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I talked
Yeah.
to him on the phone for a while. Super nice guy.
Yeah, he's written a lot of really great songs in his time.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
very
that's
much.
interesting, and that's available on. I guess all your books are available on Goodreads. Um,
On Lulu.com.
yeah.
But that one is on Amazon.
Okay. Yeah. So when it is,
So,
it'll say Amazon. Okay. That's good. That's an interesting book. I might introduce myself to your work using that book because that's I love music like everybody else.
well, it's funny. Everybody raves about Strange Sound, but I actually like Poetry of the Air better. I just think it's more of a fun read. Strange Sound is almost more of a reference book. It's very dense with information,
Hmm.
and I don't think it's a fun book to just sit down and read. But Poetry of the Air is just fun, I think,
Mm.
because you get all these different musicians viewpoints, and I think that's pretty cool.
Which two from Yes? Yeah.
Oh, several from Yes.
Oh,
Rick Wakeman, John Anderson, uh, Billy Sherwood is in there too. Might
very
be one
nice. Yeah.
more.
Yeah. I'm a big Yes fan too. So
Oh, I'm a Yes fanatic. My favorite
yeah.
band ever.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
saw them when they were doing that. Uh, the turning stage.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what year that was. I was
It
much
it
younger.
was in the mid '70s, and then when they did the Union tour, they also did the rotating stage.
Rotating stage, which I thought was very cool. I saw them at the Madison Square Garden, which was a really nice venue to watch that particular setup, with the circular
Yeah,
stage.
I think I've seen them about 18 times.
Yeah, wow. And John Anderson was in really good voice that night, as I recall. So, uh, and then we have Rockford, Illinois Beat.
Yeah, that was there was a website in Rockford that I wrote for a while called Beat Cafe, and it just collects a lot of the articles that I did there. Some of them are about local businesses. There's some music stuff, and the ones next to Dark Star Files 1, 2, and 3.
Uh huh.
There's another website I write for called Wormwood Chronicles, and I write under the pseudonym Dark Star there, which actually was a stage name of mine way back when.
Oh, really?
Anyway, Mike Korn, who did the website, actually quit doing the website at one point, and so I decided I didn't want the articles to go away, so I grabbed them all and published them in books. And there's a lot of reviews, some movie reviews, some interviews, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want them to go away. Well, then Mike started doing the website again, so they're still out on the internet, and I've gotten more done for him, which I'm going to do in the Dark Star Files 4 at some point. But yeah, those were all done for Wormwood Chronicles.
I have to ask you, I'm just getting off track a little bit, but what do you think of today's music?
You know, I'm not crazy about the over processed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So much of the stuff they just created on a computer, and I'm not crazy about that. But if you dig deep enough, there's still a lot of good music out there, and there's some really good modern bands. I love Greta Van Fleet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I hear a lot of good bands coming around.
Yeah.
So to me, Greta Van Fleet is a great example of the fact that there are still young people getting into rock and roll and doing a great job of it.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandkids, most of my grandkids, their favorite bands are like Queen and the Beatles. So
Wow. Yeah.
it gives hope for the young people.
Well, you articulated exactly what I've always thought, that today's music, there's a lot of great music out there. You just got to look harder for it than you used to have to.
Yeah, you can't just turn on the pop radio and hear something good. And even the hard rock radio station here plays some stuff that once in a while I'm like, hey, what is that? And I'll look into that band and
Hmm.
check them out, and they're pretty good.
Yeah,
There's a lot of good stuff out there.
there
It's
are. Yeah.
A lot of people just like to write it off as nothing good coming out. That's not true.
No, you can't do that because there is really good music out there. You just got to look hard for it. Um,
Exactly.
I'm getting into a band now called the 1975, which I had never heard of a couple of
I've
weeks
never
ago.
heard of it.
Yeah, they're a really good band, and I don't remember how. I might have been in YouTube hell, when you go into YouTube hell,
Exactly.
and I must have tripped over one of their songs, and I was like, "Wow, this is a really nice song." And then I started listening to the some more of their stuff, and I was like, "This is a damn good band." So that's how you find things nowadays on the
Right.
internet for the most part.
Or people will recommend stuff. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Like it used to be, you could play, put on the radio and discover something, but really can't do that anymore in
not
today's
too
world.
much.
Yeah,
You'll find a radio station here and there that plays some good new stuff. But
yeah. And in your profession, you keep your finger on the pulse of
yeah,
current
and
music anyway.
I get sent promos all the time and
Oh, sure.
come
Yeah,
across new bands and
yeah.
get blown away sometimes. A lot of it's just like any era. A lot of it's just sort of average,
Hmm.
and then there's some things that really rise to the top.
Right, right. Yeah, every decade seems like it has,
Yeah.
the cream of the crop that you can
And
look back
everybody
on.
looks back at the previous decades with like ruby glasses, and they see all the great stuff that was there and forget all the schlock that was out there.
Yeah,
And there was plenty of schlock, I tell you.
every decade had plenty of schlock.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now we're going to get back into the spooky stuff as I tab down.
Uh-huh.
Well, I see the what's Wizard Song. Tell me a little
Okay,
bit
now
about that.
Wizard Song is not exactly spooky,
Okay.
but I love Wizard Song. It's sort of, I think it's sort of between a novella and a novel because it's not super long. It's these days it wouldn't be considered a novel, but in the old days it would have.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually science fiction,
Uh-huh.
and it's a cool story because it ties into the music thing, in that it's about a rock band, a progressive rock band that gets abducted by aliens, and they get drawn in to this interstellar war between two planets. And there's more to it than that. These guys were found in the desert with no memory originally, and nobody knows who they are. And that all ties into the story later. But it's when I was 12 years old, I originally wrote the first version of Wizard Song as a comic book, and it was because I was fascinated with progressive rock, Star Trek, and Marvel superheroes, and it sort of pulls all of them together into something
That
kind
sounds
of
awesome.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun book. I think it's not hard science fiction. It's more of a space opera.
Oh, that sounds like a unique approach. Space opera. I like it.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. I think.
Let's see what Pete Townsend has to say about that. Yeah. Cool. Very good. And then the homestead.
Now that one you get into some real horror.
Okay.
Um, that is a story about there's a mansion, which that mansion, the guy who did the cover came pretty close to what I pictured the mansion as.
Hmm.
It's a mansion on a hill, and it used to be like the center of town. But towns as they do, they grew and it became like kind of a bad part of town. But the family still lives there, and these guys decide they're going to break in and rob the place, and they pull up a semi to the back of the place. They're just going to load it up and take off, right? But they get in there and things don't go as planned, and by the end they're trying to figure out how to get out alive, and everything sort of turns against them. And
So it's like
you
a
know
Home Alone type
there are
scenario.
things going on in the house that they didn't anticipate happening.
Ah, ghostly things or
I try to keep it without you knowing whether it's ghostly or not until the end.
wow.
So it could be ghostly or could not be. I don't want to give that away.
I got you. Okay, that sounds very cool.
I mean, there are doors that open and close on their own. There are lights that go on and off on their own, and
Mm-hmm.
they wind up in big trouble. Let's put it that way.
Very cool. And relics, remnants, and artifacts.
That was just sort of a collection of short stories and pieces that I wrote and
Mm-hmm.
put out.
Does it encompass some of your stories or just
Yes,
like some of
yes.
your?
Some of the
Okay,
stories that are in other things. Yeah.
okay, not the music side of it though.
Don't remember if there's any music stuff in there. I don't think so. There might be some movie reviews in there though.
Mm-hmm. And this is the coolest title of your work. It ends in the graveyard.
And that one just came out on September 4th. And
Nice.
that's an interesting little book. It's a novella. It's like maybe 100 pages long. And it's I started a group on Facebook of writers, and the whole idea was we were going to set up a bunch of criteria for a story, and then everybody had to write a story that fit that criteria, and I was going to publish them all as a book.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so far only two of us have finished our stories, and mine, I fell in love with the main character a lot and really liked the story, so I expanded it out into novella length and published it as It Ends of the Graveyard, which one of the one of the criteria for the stories is it has to end in a graveyard, in a cemetery at a funeral, and it does end in a cemetery at a funeral. But it's actually sort of a monster story about a really ancient monster that exists in a forest, and how they come across it and fight it, and
Yeah,
how it affects the little community. And
interesting. Uh, Before I get to the last two, well, these are ones that you edited.
these are ones that are basically under my name.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the ones that I've published under Tales of Wonder and Dread without that are not only a little bit of my stuff in them.
Mm-hmm. Well, it says edited and curated by
Oh,
Gary
that
Ellis.
one, yes.
Yeah.
That one is that one. That one's that way, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That one. Funny thing is, Dark Dreams and Weird Worlds. Now that was the inspiration for me creating Tales of Wonder and Dread. I put a post out on Facebook because I had a lot of writer friends, and I asked if anybody wanted to contribute to a science fiction and horror collection. And I got quite a few stories, enough to make a collection out of, and we put that together. And I think there are a lot of really good stories in there.
That's interesting. Yeah. And then the last one on this page, the concert photography of Gary Hill. So you're also into photography. You
Oh
tie that
yeah,
in with your music, your love of
yeah,
music.
yeah. I tie that with the music, and I tie it in with the cemeteries. I take pictures of cemeteries too.
Hmm.
But in that one, I gathered up a lot of my favorite concert pictures and put them together into a book. Because that one, doing the color pictures in the book, those things get really expensive.
Hmm.
So I thought, well, if I'm just going to do that, I'll do full page pictures, and it's still pretty pricey, but it's a cool book. There's some cool pictures in there, and then I tell a little bit about how each picture came about and why I think it's a great picture.
So these are photographs taken by you at concerts you were at.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm going to assume there's a yes shot or two in here.
Oh yeah, down in the corner over there, next second one from the right side is John Anderson, I
Oh,
think.
there he
Singing.
is. Okay. Hmm. What
Yeah.
what other kind of bands are in here? Just
Oh, there's Queensryche, Skunk Anansi, Dimmu Borgir. I think probably Judas Priest.
okay.
I can't remember that I did that one so long ago, but I'm sort of looking at the pictures and trying to remember.
Would you be able to just describe what your musical taste is in general, or do you keep it wide open?
Yeah, good luck with that.
When you just
I'm,
ran off those bands, I got an inkling, but
yeah, I mean, my first love is progressive rock, no
uh,
question about that. Yes, is my favorite band, but if you want to go to my second favorite band, my second favorite band is Black Sabbath. So I get the heavy metal side too,
mhm.
and then kind of whatever grabs my taste. I was an Elton John fanatic before I got into progressive rock, and I still
Mhm.
love that side of rock. And
Cool.
yeah, sort of all over the place. Depends on what I like. What
Well,
I hit, what it's me.
before I leave this page, I just wanted to ask you, and I've asked other authors this too in the past, who does your book covers? They're interesting.
Okay, this one was the Strange Sound of Cthulhu. Sorry, I'm pointing to the thing thinking you can see that.
Yeah.
Strange Sound of Cthulhu was done by a gentleman named Joseph Vargo. And that's actually there's an entire chapter on his band in there called his band is Nox Arcana.
Hmm.
And that's actually part of a cover to one of his albums. And he's a
Oh,
brilliant artist, and he does this cool, spooky goth music. It's just great. Um, so that one was him.
that's
Most
his
of the
original art on the cover?
That's his original art, and then his company did the logo and everything. They designed that whole cover for me based on his artwork,
Nice.
which was really cool
It's
for
a
them to do
wicked piece. Yeah.
that. Yeah, and like Nox Arcana is perfect for Halloween music. I remember I've seen them at Spirit Halloween stores before they had their CDs in a display. It's great spooky music.
Mm.
Most of the rest of these on this page are ones I've designed myself,
Oh, nice.
except for Wizard Song and the Homestead, which were done by a gentleman named Ken Latier, who's done a few other things for me.
Hmm.
But all the rest of oh, he also did Dark Dreams and Weird Worlds too.
Okay.
But all the rest of them are mine.
He's talented. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, he is. He does some
Hmm.
good stuff.
Yeah. So you have a publishing company yourself.
Publishing imprint, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have like a wide range of people that you publish, or do they stick to this particular genre?
Well, I so far it's just been with Tales of Wonder and Dread. It's just been my own stuff I've
Oh, okay.
curated. Or except that, we also published recently a book by Elizabeth Lynn Blackson, and it's called "The Girl's Gotta Eat," and it's the first of a trilogy, and we're publishing all three of those. And they're definitely spooky, but they're more urban fantasy with some science fiction and horror mixed in.
Nice.
And the first book in the series, which came out this year, I know I'm biased because I edited it and published it, but in my opinion, it's the best book that came out this year. I absolutely love that book.
Nice. Yeah. So you have a lot of books here on this page. You have others, I'm sure. I'm just have to ask you, do you write every day, or you seem pretty prolific. That's why I'm
I do
asking.
write every day.
Yeah.
My opinion is if you want to be a writer, you need to write every day. I don't
Hmm.
care what you write, but you have to write something. Just
Right.
like anything, the more you do it, the better you get at
Right.
it. And so I write every day. Yeah. Well,
I
not on Saturday and Sunday usually. Sometimes I wrote a movie review this weekend, but yeah,
mm.
usually not.
Another author told me that sometimes when you're not in the mood to write, if you just put the pen in your hand and sit down and start writing, it starts to flow after a while, even when you're
That's true.
not in the, yeah.
That's true. And for Music Street Journal, we do an issue every 2 months, so I have to get those reviews done. It's a deadline. I have to meet it. I've written for content farms in the past,
Hmm.
and for those, if you want to get paid, you need to write. And
Right,
so you get out there and you do it day after day after day. And
right.
sometimes you're not even writing stuff you like, but you do it because it pays the bills, and
Sure.
because it all works on the skill.
Hmm. Do you mind if we get into some of your music critic writing for a second?
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't, people who listen to me a long time know I don't know what the hell I'm doing with the internet. So just give me a second.
No
Uh,
worries.
I
I make
gotta,
it up as I go along.
yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. So,
Like yourself.
I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Um, can you see that page? Gary Hill, author, editor, publisher.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I did that correctly. So this is where you do your music reviews.
Actually, the music reviews themselves, I mean, they're on these pages too,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where the books are.
Uh huh.
But the actual website for it, where all of the reviews are, is musicstreetjournal.com, where they're
Okay.
available online. But yeah, that's where all the books are published,
Mm-hmm.
right there.
Just walk us through how that works. Do you get an album in, or somebody sends you an album or a promo, or do you have to go
Yeah,
to a concert, or how does that work?
yeah. Most of the stuff that I review is via via the internet, or
Mm-hmm.
via review copies sent in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we also have I require a physical copy for reviews, but then there's an expedited review where people can pay and they can just send a digital copy. But in general, it's physical copies come in, and I review them. And half of every issue has to be progressive rock, and then everything else is the other half.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What comes in, a CD or an album?
CD, vinyl sometimes.
Sometimes
Not a
vinyl.
lot of
Okay.
vinyl anymore. Wasn't getting vinyl for years, and vinyl's been coming in a lot lately.
Yeah, I
Uh,
own a retail antique store here, and we sell vinyl, and I can't believe how many records we sell every week,
oh
and
yeah,
and a lot of them are to kids. I'd say somewhere between 18 and 25 that
right,
that are buying the music that I listened to when I was their age. Like the
right,
Who and
right.
Zeppelin. And it's
It's great. I love it.
yeah.
Um,
Because I was told that the fidelity, you can't match the fidelity on an LP if you have good components. You have
that's
a good.
probably true. The
Yeah.
only thing is, I don't know. CDs are weird. CDs, in some ways, they're better fidelity,
Hmm.
but in other ways, not so much. And it depends on the copy of the record. It depends on how worn it is. There are a lot of the CDs hold up better. That's for sure.
Well,
CDs are more
that's yeah, I
convenient.
agree with that. Yeah, but
I
I
have a
guess.
massive CD collection too, and I during the week, if I'm not working on reviews, I mean, if I'm working on reviews, I'm listening to music. But if I'm not, I have a massive 300 CD changer, and I have that on shuffle most of the time.
Mm,
And during the weekend, I listen to vinyl because I can take more time and flip the record over and really get into the experience. Vinyl is more of an experience for me.
yeah, that's well. I guess what I was getting at is there's more of a fullness of range
Yeah,
from an LP because we have to keep in mind a digital file or a CD. That's all compressed
yeah,
files, so you're cutting off the lowest low and the highest high.
probably true.
Yeah,
Some of them are better, but depends on the CD. But yeah,
yeah. But
but I
and
also do.
also and I'm sure Mr. Hill, you'll agree with me. You feel like you have something when you have an LP in your hand. You know.
Yeah, I don't. I do not do digital music. I don't
Hmm.
do digital books. I don't do that. I mean, I will review it if somebody pays for an expedited review, but I don't listen to music other than on a record or a CD or even a cassette,
Right.
because it's not the same experience to me, and I don't really get any value from just listening to a file.
Yeah. Because I love listening to an album and having the cover and seeing who played on the song and reading the
Exactly.
lyrics, and it's not an experience you get with CDs, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what do you generally review? Is it new artists, up and coming artists, or is it established
Um,
artists?
we do both.
Mm-hmm.
I get quite a few reissues coming in anymore,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. They'll reissue them a lot of bonus tracks. And we were doing concert reviews a lot, but after COVID, a lot of the concerts got wiped out. So we've only done a handful of concert reviews since then. And personally, I'm not comfortable going back to a concert just yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping maybe next year I will be, but we'll
Right.
see.
Yeah.
And I also do interviews with artists too. But
Online interviews or face
I
to.
used to do them by phone or even in person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't like transcribing interviews. I hate transcribing interviews. And so for the most part, I'm not saying there wouldn't be any interviews that I would be willing to transcribe to get the interview, but for
Mm-hmm.
the most part, I'll just do them by email now.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to do the transcription.
Understood. And before we started recording, you mentioned you're in the Chicago area.
Yeah, I'm sort of about 60 or 70 miles from Chicago.
Okay, so you get a lot of A-listers, so to speak, going through, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah. And there's a good scene for up and coming bands out there in
Yeah,
that
I think
area?
so. I think so.
Hmm.
And the beautiful part about where I live is I'm sort of equidistant between Milwaukee, Madison, and Chicago. And so most of the artists hit one of those places at least.
Right. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were able to marry your love of sci-fi, horror. Would you say horror
Oh yeah.
and music all into one thing, which not a lot of people can say. Is you gotta give kudos to you for that.
Well, it's sort of all into three things, but yeah, or two things, but yeah.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
See,
I managed to do it, and I sort of got into the horror stuff later, just because not that I wasn't interested in it, just because I had decent success with the music stuff. I
right.
had to develop that first.
Hmm.
But yeah,
What did you play when you were in a band, if you don't mind me asking?
I played bass guitar mainly,
Hmm.
but also some keyboards and some guitar, mostly rhythm guitar though. I used to joke around, and it wasn't necessarily not true. It was pretty much true that anything with strings on it, I could fake it on. Um, and I actually put out some lo-fi recordings on cassette only at a little label years ago, and then released them on CD for a little while. But that those went away, so they're not out there anymore. But yeah,
Hmm. Interesting. So, the last you had mentioned earlier, what was the book that just came out in September?
I had four that just came out in September.
Oh,
It ends in the graveyard. All of them came out on the same day. It was the fourth anniversary of Tales of Wonder and Dread Publishing, and so I put out Horrifying Halloween, Spooky State Line, Spooky Berwyn 2, and It Ends in the Graveyard, all on the same day.
oh, horrifying Halloween, huh? Is
Yeah,
that
if you go to the Tales of Wonder and Dread
okay?
pages, you'll find those. Yeah.
Yeah. Before I leave this page, though, so most of these are available on Amazon, but all of them are available on Goodreads. So if you're listening to us or watching us, I will have a link to the Goodreads,
Actually,
uh,
probably the best link is lulu.com slash
lulu.com.
spotlight slash strange sound.
Okay.
But there are pages and pages and pages of books. But if you notice, all of these ones that are on Amazon will have a little link that tells you Amazon.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Goodreads, Lulu, hardcover. Yeah. So
Yeah. You made it easy, even for a dope like me, to see what's on
well,
Amazon.
what was funny was Lulu messed up their website. They redid their website a couple of
Hmm.
years ago.
Uh-huh.
And when they did, you couldn't find anything on it anymore. And so I had been putting off doing a redo or doing a website and putting all of them out there. And I
Uh-huh.
thought, you know what, this is a good time to do it. I'll just build the website and put it all out there that way. And so that was when I did that.
Nice. Um, so when it's on Lulu, how does that get distributed, if you don't mind? Is that
They're print on demand,
I
and
see. Okay.
So they print them up as they're ordered.
Hmm.
I don't know how they do, like the ones that go to Amazon. I know they distribute to Amazon, they distribute to Ingram, some other places, but I don't know how they do that exactly.
Hmm.
I'm not really on into that side of it.
I guess this would be a good time to, I've said this before, interviewing other authors. If you go to your local bookstore and request Mr. Hill's books, they will order it for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the ones that aren't in distribution. I don't know if they can order those.
Okay. What about the ones that came out in September?
Don't know if they can order those.
Okay.
I do know locally, if you talk to, there's a store locally here called Maze Books, and if you talk to them, talk to Dave, he can, if he doesn't have it, he can get it for you.
Hmm.
I guarantee that.
Hmm. Okay. So I'm in this
Yeah, so
Tales
you've
of
got
Wonder.
3 pages of Tales of One. Yeah, there you go.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You're a very prolific writer, Mr. Hill.
So I've heard.
And I got to ask you about some of this artwork, but before you get into that, Collision of Religion and Heart, is this Faith Mare?
Yeah, Faith Mayor. That's religious horror.
Wow.
It's
Hmm. Oh, that's a gargoyle there, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a public domain image I used to create that cover.
I see. Okay. And this is the one of the Elizabeth Lynn
Yes.
Blackson that you
That
mentioned.
covers another Ken Latier cover.
Hmm. That sort of gives you an indication of what that book is about.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's going to be the first of three that Mr. Hill will be publishing.
Yeah, now those have a number of should be noted, those have a number of trigger warnings and things, content warnings. So
Hmm.
that's that's more of an adult book than some of the others I put out.
Okay, and here's the pre-mentioned horrifying Halloween,
Yes. No,
Halloween poems and tales.
yeah, now some of those are public domain stuff and some are modern things. I've got 2 fiction stories in there and 1 nonfiction about creepy events that have happened on Halloween. And then
Hmm.
there are a number of other writers who contributed both poems and short stories. And then there are some public domain old school Halloween horror poems and stories. Not
Uh,
all of them are horror on there though. They're all Halloween related though.
oh, cool. You should next time you come east in the New York area. I'm about 35 minutes north of Spooky Hollow.
Whoa, Spooky Hollow,
Is
cool.
is that the right name? Yeah, Spooky Hollow. Yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah. So this is the here it is, horrifying Halloween book, and this you want to direct people to which site to get this book?
Well, actually, if you go to the GaryHillAuthor.com and the Tales of Wonder and Dread page, then you have a choice between getting it in hardcover and paperback easily.
Uh-huh.
Lulu.com/spotlight/strange sound, you can get it easily too. But yeah,
Very nice. And did I
that's
see
a
some?
fun little book.
I'm sorry.
That's a fun little book.
Yeah. Did I see something before about a calendar?
Oh yeah, I've done some calendars too.
Okay. You got one coming out for 2023?
Yeah, I have 3 of them. One's for Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. They're all photos I took. One's Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, which is considered one of the most haunted cemeteries in the United States. It's near Chicago.
Uh-huh.
And then I have one for Rockford's Final Resting Places, which is Rockford, Illinois, which is basically my hometown.
Hmm.
And it's pictures of cemeteries there. And one that's Spooky Rockford, which I don't know. Can you get to the calendars on there?
That's what I was just looking for. I thought I saw it
No,
before.
under Spooky Ventures, I think.
Where am I? Spooky Ventures.
Next to
Okay.
Tales of Wonder and Dread is
There it
Spooky.
is. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the calendars. Yeah,
Okay.
I put them in.
So,
Yeah,
you have one coming out for 2023 and Christmas
yeah,
is quickly
those are all
approaching. Might make
2023s.
a good gift for someone.
Yeah. And if you're going to buy them, I got notice that Lulu is raising all their prices on November 9th. I'm going to go in on the 1st of November and start raising all the prices to make up for it. And so if you want to buy them now.
Buy them
Well, they're
today.
still a little cheaper.
If
Yeah.
this episode's coming out on the 31st of October, so
Yeah. Get them today.
you have like 2 hours to get this calendar in before the
Well,
prices go up.
I'll do the calendars late through the calendar is probably about the 4th or 5th. So you got a few days.
Ah, I see. Okay. Well, that's a good idea, and it probably would make a phenomenal Christmas gift too. You know.
Yeah, the Bachelor's Grove, especially because Bachelor's Grove Cemetery has been seen on a lot of national shows and stuff,
Hmm.
national ghost hunting shows, and yeah, so that would be a good one.
Hmm. I see it here, 2023 calendar. Yeah. What's it going to? It's 14.99, which is a steal.
Well, I hope so. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know what, I bought the calendars the last 2 years. I bought them, and their calendars I think are really good quality. They're thick paper and they're nice quality calendars.
Hmm. Okay, I just wanted to get to some more of these books, if you don't mind.
No, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I just I'm amazed at how prolific you are. I know I've said that already,
Well,
but
keep in mind, I didn't write all of this stuff.
no, no. What's No More New Year's? What is that? Tales
Oh,
of the Apocalypse.
that was a collection we did at the end of last year,
Uh
and
huh.
it's just apocalyptic stories. Some of them are mine, some of them are some other people's, and they're what if the world ends and there's nothing left, and they're all about the world ending,
Hmm.
and it's a pretty cool little book.
Okay, that's also a nice graphic on there.
Oh, that one's a public domain picture I used. Yeah,
Oh, really? Yeah.
yeah, I use a lot of public domain. If you see the put the spooky into Christmas, back into Christmas, which is coming out November 1st. That one is actually an AI picture I did. I had an AI design a picture. I put the title in, and that's what it gave me. So
Hmm.
I thought it was pretty creepy.
Yeah, it cuts the time between Halloween and Christmas right in half
Yeah,
because you got the ornament with the
yeah,
pumpkin look. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, what is this? This seems like a slight departure. Original superheroes.
Oh yeah. That's a collection of old mythology
Hmm.
because I have a theory, and I've heard other people say it, that really the old mythology stuff was the superheroes of the time,
Hmm.
and that our the current fascination with superheroes is nothing more than a modern mythology. And so I put together a collection of old myths and put it in that book.
Interesting. And this was on the other page, the relics, remnants, and artifacts.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what is this? This is spectral stories.
Okay, that is a collection of ghost stories. There are some old ones, but there are a lot of new ones. I've got several in there, and several other writers contributed ghost stories. You gotta love a ghost story, right?
I do. I do like ghost stories. I've had two other authors that wrote. One guy wrote a book called "I Met a Ghost at Gettysburg,"
Oh, nice.
and I had a lady on a couple of weeks ago, and she's located in Peoria, Illinois, I believe, and she wrote some books in regards to a mental asylum that was over there.
Oh, I think I've heard
So
of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so she both of them are talented authors as well. So I do like that genre, ghost stories. Yeah. So what is speculative stories?
Those are science fiction stories. Again, I think there's some classic ones in there along with some modern ones contributed by different writers.
Okay, so this is under your umbrella, but they're not all specifically written by you.
No, I wrote some in there, but I don't remember which ones I wrote in there. That one's been out a few years.
Do you primarily do the editing, Gary?
Yeah, I do the editing and internal formatting
Hmm.
on all of them, and then some of them I have put my stories in. Some don't have my stories. Spirited Classics next there. That's just all vintage ghost stories, so that doesn't have anything that I wrote except I wrote the introduction and then a little introduction to each piece.
Interesting, very interesting. Now here's another one, Spooky Berwin.
Ah, the Spooky Berwin is interesting, and I just put out Spooky Berwin too. Spooky Berwyn, people will think it's about ghost stories set in Berwyn, Illinois. There are two in that one set in Berwyn, Illinois, but the title is actually an homage to Svengoolie. I don't know if you probably get Svengoolie there. It's on MeTV,
Hmm.
and he's a horror host out of Chicago. And people will say the name Berwyn on there, and you'll hear Berwyn. And so I basically titled these books as an homage to him because I'm a huge fan.
Hmm.
And but they're creepy tales inside the Chicago. That one's just the Chicago suburbs. The second one actually gets into some stories inside Chicago. And again, it's nonfiction mostly, but there are fiction stories in both books. And
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
did quite a few of them. My wife did one. Some other people, quite a few other people did stuff
Hmm.
in both books.
And
They're
they're
fun.
all, as the title suggests, they're all from the surrounding area of Chicago.
Correct. And like I
Yeah.
said, the second one is the entire Chicago area, including Chicago. I avoided Chicago itself in that one.
Uh huh. Interesting. You're a very creative fella.
Well, thank you.
I just want to go to another page. I'm getting into this now. See, and you got me hooked on this stuff.
All right.
So, here's the two you just mentioned.
Yeah,
A
Spooky
Spooky
Berwin
Berwin
too.
too. Okay, and this includes. Do I see Al Capone over there?
Oh yeah, there were
Yeah.
there are a couple of articles that reference Al Capone
Uh-huh.
actually. Um, I think at least one, maybe two that reference him. Yeah, and John Dillinger should be on the cover too. That's another cover I designed. I
Yeah, I
usually
see him.
use
Yeah.
either photos that are given to me to use or public domain photos and create those.
Uh huh. I see where this is going. You got spooky fiction.
Spooky fiction, which that's a lot of old stories, but then some of my stories, and they're
When
all
you say old, like how,
like
antiquated
old
stories, or
public domain stuff, anything before 1925, 26.
do you feel like
Um,
the approach to that genre has changed over the
yeah,
years?
I do. It's interesting to see some of that old stuff. Um, when I did Horrifying Holidays, I included uh, the entire thing of A Christmas Carol, which I don't know who has read that. I had never actually read it before. I'd seen plays, I'd seen the movie, but I'd never actually read it before. And I actually love that story. And some of those old stories, you've got to get used to the style of writing, but they can be a lot of fun. I mean,
Hmm.
they're a little predictable because people have used them over and over again over the years, but they're interesting.
Yeah, they were all trying to be Charles Dickens.
Yeah,
Dickinson.
yeah.
Yeah. Dickens. Yeah. So that's interesting. Spooky Rockford.
Yeah, Spooky Rockford, which were, again, my hometown. And so we did Spooky Rockford and Spooky Rockford 2, which again, this is the same thing with fiction and nonfiction stories from various people. Um, and those are well received around here anyway.
Hmm.
And Spooky State Line could be looked at as Spooky Rockford 2, 3, except that I worked further out from where Rockford, Illinois is and went into southern Wisconsin and a little further out from Rockford. But yeah, it's the same basic concept.
I see. Spooky stories. Is that also older stories or?
There are some older and some newer stuff in there from a number of different authors. Yeah.
Mhm. And what is this temporal
That's a
journey?
collection of time travel stories. I think I've got two in there, maybe, or one. And then there are a lot of other modern ones and older ones, both.
Wow. I like that also. Time travel. Yeah.
Yeah, time travel is pretty cool if you can pull it off. It gets really tricky, though, to do it
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Everybody wants to meet their father when he was 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a lot of Rockford here on this one.
Yeah, Rockford's Final Resting Places books. Yeah, I'm working on the fifth one. Those are mostly photos, but there are also some descriptions and stories about the various cemeteries
Do you have
around.
any famous people buried in those cemeteries?
Um, I can't remember his name. There's a gentleman who used to be a Chicago Cub who's in one of them.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and seems to me there are a few other famous people. Just locally famous. There's a gentleman named Tinker who built a place called Tinker Swiss Cottage that is really supposedly haunted, and it's a museum now. It's a pretty cool place in Rockford.
Hmm.
Um, but I know there's some others. I just can't come up with them offhand.
That's all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the last page from the Tales of Wonder and Dread.
Oh, that's our open calls. Those
Oh,
are the
for
books we're
okay.
taking submissions for. Yeah.
So anyone who is a ghost writer or a horror writer, they want to make a submission to you,
Yeah, there are
they'll be
quite a
able to
few.
contact you through your site.
Correct.
Hmm. Okay. So I'll put that link on there as well. And so yeah, I'm amazed at how many books you've come out with.
Yeah, a few.
Yeah, you certainly you don't sit on your laurels, that's for sure.
Got to keep putting stuff out, my friend. Got to keep putting
Uh-huh.
stuff out.
Yeah. So this has been a great pleasure to talk to you. As I said before, I'm going to put a link to the Lulu site, right?
Yeah.
That's your best thing.
That's
And
fine. You'll
also,
find you'll find all the books there. They're not organized so well. They're organized by which ones came out most recently, and you've got to really scroll to get to some of them. I
right.
still think that if you go to the GaryHillAuthor.com site, you can find the links to all of them a little more easily, a little
Yeah,
more
it seems to
organized.
be slightly easier to navigate through your
Right,
site. Yeah,
right. And I don't know if you want to talk about Spooky Ventures, but that's something else that's completely different there. Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, that's I decided a couple of years ago to start doing videos, which you do the YouTube stuff too. And it's uh it's a website where we've got merchandise with spooky merchandise on it. You
Hmm.
can get this shirt here, there, and you can get, but there's also videos at if you go to the YouTube channel right down there, you're just right below there. If you go to the YouTube channel, we've got tons of videos there. I do at least two a week. Sometimes there are more, and they're all spooky stuff.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I decided I wanted to try to get into video. And you know what? I don't know about you, but I haven't cracked the algorithm yet to figure
No,
out what
no,
views and
no.
what doesn't. Some of our videos have several hundred views. Some have five.
Yeah.
I haven't figured it out yet. But it's interesting to do. I do interviews sometimes with people. I've got an interview coming up with a filmmaker next month that'll go out there, and then
Hmm.
I've got spooky news, which I mostly do in the spooky season, and audiobooks every week, radio shows every week. Been doing a lot of movie reviews lately, and yeah, it's just kind of fun.
Well, I was just going to say because as you know, we're going to try our best to have this come out on Halloween. So actually, this page might be a good place to visit if you're listening to us or watching us on Halloween.
Yes, and subscribe. And you know what? If you look at playlists over there, if you go to the playlist, I've got playlists on there, and I draw stuff from the playlist to put onto the actual website. Every time I change a new video goes up, I change the actual website, and there's interviews featuring Spooky Ventures Gary Hill. So once this is on YouTube, that'll get added to that playlist and wind up on the main site every so often too.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So
Oh,
yeah.
sorry about that. So that's very interesting. And so this is the Spooky Vintage Ventures tab on the GaryHillAuthor.com site. Will take you right to his YouTube page.
Yep.
But I'm curious as to what kind of merchandise you have for sale.
Oh yeah, we got some cool stuff at the Cafe Press store.
Oh, Cafe Press. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's all Cafe Press, which we don't make hardly anything off of it, but at
I,
least
s-
there's some cool designs and stuff. And
I see Edgar Allan Poe there.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, we did that for Poe's birthday one year.
He lived in my hometown, the Bronx, New York, for a while.
Oh, did he?
In fact, Poe's cottage is still standing there in the Bronx.
There's some Lovecraft stuff too. I think Lovecraft lived somewhere in New York City for a while. I
Hmm.
can't remember where, but he lived somewhere in New York for a little while. He hated it, I think, but when he was married to Sonia Green.
It's funny. I was just looking at this. It said "Keep it spooky," and I thought it was Barack Obama.
Oh, yeah, it's Lovecraft.
Yeah.
I can see that though, now that you
Yeah,
mention it.
well, when I at first
That's a
glance, I
pretty
thought it
good
was President Obama, but
Yeah.
yeah. So again, there's you have an endless supply of creatism. I can't say the word right, but you have an endless supply of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
created all
and
those designs. Many of them were from public domain pictures, but yeah, I created those designs.
yeah, and I really want to get into some of your writing on the music side. And this goes back, as I can see, 1998. So it's been quite a long time that this Music Street Journal's been around, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
very long
Was it
time.
ever in print or is it always digital?
No, it's well, it became in print after a while
Hmm.
because it's all in print now. Um,
Oh, it's in print. Okay.
in print, yeah, you can get big books of every single article we've ever published. And the books now, since 2018, they all include a print edition exclusive some article that isn't actually on the website. But yeah, I originally started doing it in '98, and the very first issue went out to like 28 subscribers as a Microsoft Word document emailed out.
Wow.
And then within a year, it was a website. I haven't seen numbers for the site in years, many years, but back in the early 2000s, we were running over 1 million unique visitors a month.
Hmm.
So it was pretty cool.
And they're mostly just reviews, right?
Reviews, yeah, some interviews,
Uh-huh.
but mostly just reviews
Yeah, I
and
could see. I could see. Well,
concert
I'm
reviews.
on the earlier pages, but I
Right,
could
right.
see.
That's the
Yeah.
early stuff. But there are
Yeah.
concert reviews, video reviews,
Hmm.
album reviews. Yeah.
Yeah, you're so prolific. I got like 40 tabs open at the same time.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing. I'm amazed. I'm amazed at how hard you work. But you're a very creative fellow. I have to give you kudos. Now I have to ask you, and I know I've taken up a lot of your time already,
Oh,
but I
you're
have to
fine.
ask you um, what you think of Dr. Demento. Did you listen to him growing up?
I did a little bit. I
Yeah,
wasn't what I would say a big fan, but he was fun.
yeah. Well, he used to come on, I think Sunday nights here in New York. I forget what channel it was on, radio station it was on, the Dr. Demento show.
Yeah.
So he always played the quirky stuff. For those who don't know who he was,
He played a lot of Weird Al, which was cool. I saw Weird Al live
he
once.
did play a lot of Weird Al later on, and but even back, I think he's somewhat responsible for the Monster Mash, isn't he?
Was he? Did he go that far back? Because that was what the early '60s, late
Yeah,
'50s.
he was around a long
I
time.
didn't
Yeah,
know that. That's
in the New
good.
York area anyway. So again, I'm going to direct people to Gary Hill, theauthor.com, right? Oh,
RealAuthor.com.
just no just GaryHillAuthor.com. And that'll be your gateway to, you could spend hours just going through that website.
You can get to everything I do from there.
Do you design your own site?
Yes.
Yeah.
That one's MusicStreetJournal.com. I did not design. A gentleman named Greg Johnson designed that one,
Uh-huh.
the version that we're using of it now. But all the rest of the sites I designed.
Hmm.
The Gary Hill Author and the Spooky Ventures. They're not perfect, but you know what? They get the job done.
Absolutely. And it's easily navigatable.
Yeah, I
Right?
used to be I
Yeah.
used to do web design way back when it was just strictly HTML,
Uh-huh.
and I have not I had a certificate from the college, and I knew how to do it back then, but the tech has changed so much since then. I just use these little web builders on the web host and
Yeah, well, there's
do
so
it
much
that way.
software that makes web design easy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially the prefab ones. If you go on, what's the name of that? The web
Wix.
hoster. Huh?
Wix.
Wix makes it so
Yeah.
easy. Yeah. Just move
Yeah, the one
boxes
that I
around.
go through doesn't make it quite that easy, but they do pretty well.
Yeah. GoDaddy is what I was trying to think of, but
Oh,
Wix is the
GoDaddy,
same.
yeah.
Yeah.
I won't get into GoDaddy. I had them years ago. It was not a happy experience.
Mhm. Well, you're a very interesting fella, and I had a very interesting hour listening to you.
Oh, this
And
was fun.
I feel like I'm keeping you away from writing another book.
Yeah, I don't think I'm doing that today.
No, but I'm really looking forward to getting into your work, and I'm going to start tonight probably on the music reviews. But
All right.
so happy Halloween to you, Mr. Hill.
Happy Halloween. And as I always say in Spooky Ventures, keep it spooky.
Keep it spooky. Thank you again, sir, and have a great evening. And hopefully we'll see you again down the road.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.